What's up, everybody? Welcome to Make Things Tiny. My name is Mick. There's two topics on the channel that I think are really important that we don't talk about too much, and that's the DIY side of tiny house living and New England as a potential location for going tiny. Today's video brings both of those together because we're going to hear from Deanna. Deanna built their own tiny house along with their husband in New England. They currently reside in Maine. They're going to talk about their experience, why they chose DIY as their tiny house option, what it was like for them living in their tiny house. So this is a great video for those of you who are looking to go tiny. You've been eyeing New England or you currently live in the area and you're trying to figure out what is the best way for you to go tiny. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and let's jump into it. Let's learn about Deanna's tiny house journey. I'm here today with Deanna. Deanna is a full-time artist that shares their process with art and educates people around the world of art through YouTube. Thank you so much for being on the channel, Deanna. So if you don't mind just to start chatting a little bit about your background and what got you interested in tiny houses, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Deanna, like you said. I'm a full-time interdisciplinary artist and arts educator. My practice is rooted in sustainability. You can see a little patchwork quilt behind me. I do like natural dyeing. I work with mostly scraps. I make all of my handmade oil paints from stones. And that's definitely like the angle that kind of like brought me into the universe of tiny house living. As well as like a million other things. And then the other side of that coin is the person who I made the house with, which is my now husband. At the point we started, we were just dating, but for like 7 years. So he had always dreamed of making his own tiny house, living really small. And so, yeah, that's kind of what brought those things together.
Okay, that's cool. That's a really cool thing to do when you're early, not early in a relationship, but like, dating. I'm sure that made your
Yeah.
relationship stronger.
We've always done a lot of
Yeah,
insane stuff together,
yeah,
so it's not crazy for us.
yeah. No, that's great. Well, when did you all get started, and then what made you decide to build it? Because there are a lot of different options for going tiny, and you guys went sort of like the DIY route, which is
Yeah.
awesome. What made you decide to go that route, and when did that process start for you?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely went DIY.
Mhm.
So we purchased a used trailer that was like a 30-year-old used trailer from like a gardener on Facebook Marketplace in June of 2022 and started designing based off of that base. We
Okay.
did it all in SketchUp. Um, so what drew us to this was, I mean, a million reasons, but I make things for a living. There's nothing that makes me happier than learning something new and making things. And my husband, Dan, he is fascinated by building things with wood. Like he had worked at Plymouth Plantation for a while and he built timber frame houses. He does like to remind people that he did not know a single bit of contemporary carpentry before we built the house. He only knew how to make like thatch roofs, which we did not do. But it just like the mindset of making things, and we're both very just do yourself people. Like we just love creating our own little universe. So it was just very much like there wasn't even an option in our mind that we weren't going to make it ourselves. Um, he is incredible at learning things. And I think he has a lot of confidence in his ability to like figure things out. And we're both just like we're both very ambitious and we're both very excited to learn. So we were like, this is going to be awesome. And so we did actually build the whole entire house by ourselves. And we did the solar, we wired it, we did absolutely everything. So we did do it, but yeah, it was pretty crazy to do it all by ourselves.
No, it sounds like it. How long did it take you, and were there any sort of like design must-haves for you all when you were building it? And, like, what size is it? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's less than 150 square feet total. Um, and it took us from June, if you count like getting the trailer
Mhm.
as the start June 2022, it took us 2 years and 2 months almost to the day.
Okay.
And that was, we were both I was doing my master's program and Dan was working full time, and we had to drive 2.5 hours. Actually, it turned out to be like 3.5 to get to the place that we were building the house
Oh,
the
okay.
first year. And
Hmm.
then we were living in it full time when it wasn't built. Yeah, it
Oh, wow.
wasn't finished for a whole entire year. So it would have taken us less time if we hadn't been so busy, but we cranked it out. Like we were weekend warriors. So design wise, we needed to accommodate for my life as a full-time artist, and I work paradoxically, which is always really funny to people. I paint exceedingly large, like 10 feet, like bigger, way bigger than me. And I'm 5 feet. So it always like cracks people up that I'm like so tiny making giant things. And I've always painted against a wall. And so we
Okay.
knew I'd be in here full time. So we were like, all right, we're going to make like a big wall, which is a very unique thing for a tiny house. Like you don't often see like a giant blank wall.
Hmm.
And then we did two really large windows. This was super important to us because it would not only add like a lot of airflow, but it would also add a lot of light, and you wouldn't feel as like trapped because it would
Right.
be these big windows that we just like open out. So those are two big features. And then similarly to the wall, underneath where I'm sitting right now, because I'm in the tiny house right now, um, the we kept all my art supplies underneath the floorboards. So we like did one element raised like almost a foot, basically. It's like 9.5 inches. Um, I remember that obviously because we built it. 9.5 inches, and then I could stick my art supplies under there, so I could just pull it up, do that, and then we did like a big table that's like giant, so we could like have dinner, do literally anything and everything. But then you can take it off, and then underneath it was a day bed.
Oh,
So we
okay.
had like it was like our couch slash bed slash if we had one guest, they could sleep there. Um, we did it's a really short little loft. We would just lay like this. And my husband's 6'1", by the way. So every design decision we made had to be he wouldn't hit his head, but that I
Hmm.
could reach it. So that was a challenging thing because I'm 5 feet and he's
Right.
6'1".
Yeah.
So that was like a hilarious thing. So we did do a sliding library book ladder,
Oh, okay.
which is my favorite part because I feel like Belle. And that was where we would get our books. Um, yeah, those are like the biggest features. And we did tons and tons and tons of storage, like every little nook and cranny that you could put like a little shelf or
Hmm.
like a little door. Like we have like so many like trap doors and like little things. So then everything would kind of be put away and the living space would be as like clean and clear as it could be. So you could kind of like exist in here and not be like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, we really prioritized storage.
It sounds like you put a lot into less than 150 square feet. And I think in general,
We
what
did.
you and Dan did really speaks to some of like the earlier stages of the tiny house movement, where the point is to get as small as you possibly can, be sustainable, but still live the life that you want to live. So I think that's really
Totally.
great that you thought about all those different things in terms of where to put the things that you need, so you didn't miss out on those aspects of your day to day life, to make the transition as easy as possible. One thing I think that people don't think too much about with going tiny is that there will be some challenges. Like that's inevitable. What sorts of challenges did you and Dan experience in the process, or like when you were already living in the tiny house?
Yeah. We'll talk about the process a tiny bit.
Hmm.
So essentially, okay, so there's kind of like the 2 years that we worked on it were kind of very distinctly different. So the first year we lived in an apartment. I was getting my master's, and
Hmm.
Dan was in his first year out of his doctorate, where he was his first year as a physical therapist. So we were stretched thin, like
Right.
time wise. And we were lucky enough. Dan's parents will forever be just like the greatest heroes to us. They let us park the trailer and the like quarter done house outside of their window, outside of their house in Plymouth. Now we were living, 2.5 hours away from that. So we would have to drive through Boston traffic every Friday to get to the house. So we had the absolute benefit that we had a place to put it.
Right.
But the downside was that it was super far away and we
Mhm.
would hit so much traffic. And we were just so busy that we would literally, I do not joke, every Monday through Friday, we'd be scheming, making drawings, making plans, figuring things out, buying stuff, figuring things, and then planning like aisle 4, bay 7 at the Home Depot in Plymouth is where we're going to get these screws. Like we
Mhm.
planned it to the inch of its life. So when we got there, we would do 16-hour days on a Saturday, wake up at 5 a.m. the next day, do as long as day as we could on Sunday, drive back,
Mhm.
and then do it again. So that was challenging only in the sense that it was like, we were like round the clock
Yeah.
working on it and doing our regular very full schedules as you know, working
Yeah.
people. And then the second year, it's like the opposite problems. Like we were able to park it at our friend's house. They have like a bunch of land. So we were able to like be off in the corner and not be in their way at all. Um, and they have like, you know, it's great there, but it is like the woods. Like it's not like,
Okay.
you know, you're like really in the woods. And so we had it parked, but it was completely off grid, as I said. So we didn't have, obviously, we didn't have like a wood shop. We didn't have like a way to plug anything in. So we would be working off of a generator. So we would have to take everything out. We had this like little dinky tent that I used to use for like arts festivals. And we had like all of our wood under there. And the first summer that we moved in, I kid you not, it rained 35 days that summer.
Wow.
And we were basically like in a bog. And so there were like a billion mosquitoes. And we were like building in the like hottest time of the year and like full of mosquitoes and like using power tools. Like I am so sweaty and sticky. So that was like really challenging, as you can maybe imagine. But yeah, those I would say were like the hardest things about it, in the building side of things.
It does speak to like some of the trade-offs, but you also think about the amount that you're saving. So if you think about the amount of hours that you put into it, what that would
Oh
translate
my god.
into if you were to pay a contractor or to
It's a
pay a formal
drop
tiny
in
house
the
builder.
bucket.
Yeah, I think that sort of
Oh my
speaks to
god.
the pros of the DIY approach because you really are saving a lot of money, even if it feels like in the moment you're putting in tons and tons and
Oh
tons
my
of time.
god. First of all, nobody would have been able to make what we made. Like, had such a unique design. People would have been like, why are you doing it like that? I'm like, don't question us. Just let us do this weird thing. Like, it was such a great learning experience. Like, there's nothing like making something yourself and knowing all the flaws and all of the ways in
Mhm.
which it was put together. I was saying to you the other day when we were talking, like,
Yeah.
I can tell you every single place where there is wood because we put it in. Like, it's not, no stud finders needed here. Like, I just remember. Yeah, it's that the good absolutely astronomically has outweighed the bad, but I think it is, um, you know, it's an intense experience.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, okay, so I know that now you and Dan don't live in the tiny house anymore. So what prompted that move and like what was that shift like in that decision making process to not live in the tiny house anymore?
Yeah, so our plan was never like, we're going to live in it for this many days or this many years. It was sort of like our launching pod out of like an incredible amount of pressure from like living in the city and not being
Mhm.
able to really save enough to be able to buy our forever home. And also, we truly wanted the experience of doing it. Um, so the major reason that we did leave after, so we lived there full time for a year and a half. Um, and the major reason was the lack of utilities. And the reason we weren't able to install the things that we would have wanted to, that would have made it more comfortable and would have made it so we could have stayed for many more years, was the fact that we live in such a dramatic climate. So in Maine, it gets extremely cold and it gets extremely hot. And so we were not able to put in hot water. I'm positive there's ways to do this safely, but when we were looking into it and the space that we had and the means that we had at the time, we truly didn't have a way to do this that felt safe to us. So we opted for no hot water. And so we didn't end up doing a shower, which meant that we had more storage, which was great because where we would have put the shower, but we didn't have a shower. We didn't have hot water. The hardest thing was that because that's fine. Like, no big deal. We showered at the YMCA. We would boil up water in a kettle and then do it for cleaning our dishes. The hardest thing was that we didn't have a stove. So we didn't have like an oven or a stove. And so we just cooked out on the grill. And so that was a little bit challenging. Actually, the hardest thing was how cold it would get. So we have a little wood stove that is really great and we absolutely love it, and it works amazingly well for the size that we had to get due to how small it is in the house. It wasn't powerful enough to withstand a Maine winter. So we would have to load it every like 35 minutes, 40 minutes to like keep it going. But you can't possibly sleep and do that. So we would wake up and it would be like 20 degrees in here. So our one pipe would freeze and we would be quite cold. And just knowing how cold it was getting, we did move out in February of 2025 this year. So I think just how cold it gets was the biggest thing. So the thing is, even though we don't live in the tiny house full time, we have now transitioned this space to be my interdisciplinary art studio. And we are forever changed by our tiny house experience. Like, we learned so much about obviously like building a house, but also just about ourselves and what we really need out of life. And it's not like we have a big house and we're like, oh, about all this stuff. Like, we're forever changed in the best way. And we were able to really decide the house that we needed because we truly knew like we need this, and we're able to make this our forever home. And we were also able to buy a home that I don't think a lot of people would have maybe bought, because it was definitely a fixer-upper. And I don't know if everybody would have been like prepared to take on the project that we are currently taking on.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you that question, is because I do think that a lot of people, when they think about moving into a tiny house, they think it has to be permanent. And so it's really, really great to hear that you used it as sort of like a platform to then be able to get your fixer upper, and you kept the tiny house and it's your art
Totally.
studio. I think that really shows that like it doesn't have to be a lifelong thing. You don't have to sell it when you move out of it, which I think a lot of
No.
people assume. And it could just be part of your story. And I think it's really great that you used it to get to the next step, because we are seeing a lot of stories of people downsizing to a tiny house, and like that is the next step. But for you, it's sort of like the opposite, where it's like, okay, we saw an
Totally.
opportunity to save money, do something
Exactly.
really cool. You gained so
Yeah.
many skills, and now you're where you want to be. So I think that's a huge, huge thing for people to hear. I always try to tell people that all the time, like, this does not have to be something you do for the
Yeah,
rest of your
no, I
life.
think, and I'm sure you've touched upon this a million times, but like everyone's tiny house journey is so different, like what brings them into it and how they navigate it. And I think the biggest thing that, like, the overall, like, why we did have to change and not be in here forever is because it is off grid. It is less than 150 square feet. We are in a cold climate. If we were able to put an oven in here, a couple more things, and it wasn't so cold, you'd be laughing. We'd be in here for 10, 15 years, seriously, and we would have had no issues. It's just the nature of the beast. Like, I think, yeah, and we're not going to get to the point where we're older adults and being like, I have a basement full of stuff and all these things. Like, we're so intentional about what we have. And I'm, maybe it'll happen, but I don't think so. We'd have to really fundamentally change. So I think it was a great lesson to learn, in our early 30s to like set us up for our life together.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really cool, and I think it's a great story as well too. But I also think it shows just how much going tiny doesn't look the same, right? Like, I think we're getting a lot of similar images lately in social media, but like that's just the house itself. So I think it's great that you all have your side of things, and you're able to share that with people. Which I think is a good segue into the last question, which is, you know
a lot of people, the main thing I always tell people is to ask questions, talk to people that have lived in tiny homes, do your research. You don't want to move into something and then find out you're miserable and you regret it.
No.
What is the advice that you would give to someone who's watching this and they're thinking like, I want to do this. I want to do what Deanna and Dan did. I want to build my own house. I want to go tiny. They don't want to go through the builder, contractor,
Totally.
traditional route. Yeah, like what would you say to them? What's some of the things they need to really be thinking about before they start that process?
Yeah, my number one biggest advice is kind of like a big one, but it is choose the right partner to build with. So truly, like, you cannot do it by yourself. You cannot lift a giant 6x8 piece of plywood by yourself and lift it up 10 feet. Like, you will at some point need another human being to help you. So somebody that you truly respect and trust. Um, like I said, every single day of the week, we were scheming together, we were designing together, and we both trust each other implicitly and honor and respect each other's like point of view. And if we were like bickering about things, it would never have worked out. Like obviously we had days where we were like sweating our butts off and it was like we'd be at it for 16 hours and like, sometimes you get a little sassy. But truly, it was the most fun thing we've ever done together. And we always talk about it in that way. Just like, remember that giant thing we made together? So that's like a big thing. And then my advice for like living in it is, this is such a small one, but is very important. Do not buy any sets of things. So like, don't buy 2 paper towel rolls. You're not going to be able to fit them anywhere. We would get like, Dan sometimes would bring home like a set of paper towel rolls. And I was like, what are you doing? We only have one roll to store it. Like where it's stored and where it's used is the same place. So like, don't buy a pack of 12 toilet papers. Like, you have one, and when you need another one, go get another one. Like, don't have any more than you have exactly the storage for. Like, if you have a storage for it, buy it, but don't buy anything extra. I mean, it's going to get in your way, and you're going to be so annoyed when you're tripping over that paper towel roll. The last advice that I would give that is kind of like, if future Deanna could like go back to past Deanna and say one thing to her, it would be ask for help. So Dan and I kind of double bounce each other in the like being overly ambitious and being a little self-sufficient to like a little bit of an extreme. There were definitely days that we should have asked for help. Like, we should have asked somebody to help carry stuff. Like, I am really short. Not a small problem when you're lifting things above your head all the time. And I think just ask for help. It's okay. Yeah, we just really didn't have any, but we asked for Dan's dad's help a couple times when I truly couldn't lift things. And that was really nice. And we had one friend come one day that helped us. That was it.
I think that's really great advice. And also, I will say that the entire time I've done this, I don't think anyone has ever said be mindful of who you choose to build your tiny house with. I think that's really great advice. Because if you get along well, that's great, and you have really cool memories and stuff like that. But if you don't get along, you're gonna find out the full extent of that when you're building. And the storage piece, I think, is a huge one too. But the storage one's not something we even do in our traditional homes, like in our traditional houses or apartments. We always get too much stuff. I think about that. And the paper towel rolls is huge. Yeah.
If you
we
run
do,
out
we
of
do.
something,
We put too much stuff in.
Store.
Yeah.
Like, if you run out of something, it's not a big deal. You can go to a store and get it. If you don't have room for it, you're having to deal with it. Like, it's a pain in the butt. And it truly, like, the thing that you said about like the partner, like choosing our person, every experience that we had making the house infused this house with the way that it feels. And I can't tell you how magical this house is. Like, you can watch a video on my YouTube of literally step by step how we made the house, like a 30-minute version of like the whole process. But like, there's one beam where Dan wrote a message to me, and then it was like the last like piece that we like put in behind a wall. And like, I know that it says that underneath like where I hang stuff. And like every inch of this room is like infused with that. And if you can find somebody to do that with, like, it'll make it a happier place to exist, and you'll want to keep it forever. You won't want
Yeah, no, that sounds really nice. It's like a really cool memories, like just filled with all these really, really awesome memories. So no, I think that's a really good advice to give. And I do hope that people are watching that they take the advice too, because I think that's really important.
Yeah.
There's so many things that go into going tiny, the logistics side of things, but then there's also just you want to make sure that it's a solid memory for you. And
You
so
wanna be happy in
that
there.
involves a lot of, yeah, you want to be happy. So
That's the
yeah,
whole
it's
reason
great.
you're doing it. Is
Yeah.
that you want to be happy. Like,
Mhm.
you want to live simply so you can be happy, and it's
It's cool. It's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deanna. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and
Of
share your
course.
story with everyone. There'll be a link to your YouTube channel in the video description so they can check it out. Hopefully subscribe and learn more about you, and maybe they can learn about art as well too. And yeah, I just appreciate you taking the time to just sort of like share your story. So yeah, happy to have you on the channel anytime. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm still in here making stuff. So if you want to see what I make in here, you can check that out. I'm having a grand old time in here.
That's awesome. Cool.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right, that was my conversation with Deanna. I appreciate Deanna taking the time to walk us through everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. I think it's really important for those of you who are looking to go tiny to get really honest takes on the entire experience. So thank you again, Deanna, for taking the time to share your experience with us. If you want to check out more about Deanna's life, you can check out their YouTube channel. The link is in the video description here. And if you haven't seen my other videos where I talk to people who've gone DIY routes or focus on things like sustainability, you can check those out here as well too. And don't forget to think tiny. I'll see you guys in the next one.